Welcome to episode 86 of the Road is Dead podcast. I'm your host, Rob Curtis, joined here in the studio today with
Tim Strelecki,
Mike Friedman,
Chad Hartley,
and Chad Hartley as a guest once again. Thank you for joining us again, Chad. Mike, I guess thank you to you always for joining us. I appreciate it. We had a bit of a list to go down today, and I'm kind of trying to look it up, so talk amongst yourselves.
I got it right there for you.
Oh, there you go.
Let me point this in your direction.
So I wanted to start off with something really quick. No, I guess we'll say that one till later. So SRAM this week announced a new group, new transmission, T-type that they're calling it. Mike, I don't know if you saw any of the posts about any of this. You typically don't watch a lot of tech announcements or anything.
Is this how Wout Venner's running a 52 on the front?
Yeah, we'll get to that, but no.
Okay. Well,
they went on the mountain bike side and they introduced a whole new, I'll call it a group set, but it's a transmission as they're calling it, and it didn't involve the brakes. I think they had a brake update, but whatever. Maybe these will actually work. What they did though is their rear derailleur on their new mountain bike group does not attach to a derailleur hanger. It attaches directly to the frame using SRAM's new universal derailleur hanger technology, patent, whatever they have, that they've been integrating into frame sets for a while. They've been designing this for a while, and they've been testing it for a while. Yeah. And everyone is telling me that it is the worst kept secret known to man. But it was still a secret to me because I'm the worst man around, apparently. I was not in the know, but it is a 12-speed system. It runs a flat top chain. Because of how they're allocating it, they're putting it on the end of the through axle, in essence. They do not need any limit screws or tension screws. Mm-hmm. And they have beefed up the knuckle on the outside of it. And the video that shows a guy standing on the knuckle. See, look how powerful, And the obvious is the rear derailleur hanger was designed many years ago to allow for us to fix a bike that had been in a wreck without having to replace the whole frame. You could just replace the hanger and you're back in business. And a lot of times it would save your derailleur. So apparently that's passé at this point. We don't need that. And we can just go with, a direct mount derailleur. I was about to start talking all sorts of crap about it. And then I had a customer text me and say, order one up, send me the invoice. So I can't say it's horrible. Thank you, SRAM. But at the same deal, there's some things I like about it. There's some things I don't like about it. The one thing that I think is interesting about it is that it's designed to shift better under load, in essence, than it does when it's not under load. And they dropped a little comment in their launch video that kind of goes along with what I've been saying for a long time. SRAM's been gearing up with an e-bike group, and they've been gearing up with their own e-bike system. And they mention in this that it's perfect for, it's better shifting under load, almost like it was designed to run on e-bikes. So there you go. There you have it. Is this a nod also to an e-bike system coming in? But the interesting thing to me, though, also is that the cassette, apparently MSRP on these cassettes is like $600-700 for a cassette, just FYI. Almost as much as the derailleur, and these cassettes are getting to be like, hellaciously big. And I'm still wondering why we're putting chain rings on a rear wheel, other than the fact that SRAM can't figure out how to do a front derailleur. But it's this pushing the front derailleur and trying to go one by and everything else. It just makes their gearing choices, in my opinion, worse and worse and worse and worse in every iteration they come out with. And we've always been saying, I don't know your guys' opinion on the gearing choices, but I know you've got a lot of strong opinions on kind of the gaps that they've got in their gearing. They have changed it on some of their newer stuff, but it just seems like where you're riding in it, there's just gaps where there needs to not be gaps. And it's just a function of ditching the traditional stuff. But so much so, you've got a theory.
I don't know if it's a theory, but
We're going to call it a theory. Theory means unproven and based on no facts. So
yeah, it's totally
in my book,
zero facts here. But from my experience, and my personal I always liked 11 speed. I just like the jumps that are in it. I like the gearing configurations that I can go with. That being said, I do have an Axis Force 12 speed, and I've been riding it for 3+ years, and I still can't figure out a good gear to use. I've gone up and down in front chain rings. I've used different rear configurations, and it just boils down to I just don't like the feel of a 12 speed. So on my new build, I went back to 11 speed. Love it. It's like I never left. So that's just my own personal experience. Regardless of what, the manufacturers are saying that the benefits are of 12 speed. I'm sure it's great for most people. I just didn't like it myself. But the theory that Rob's kind of talking about is, we've all been, the World Tour has actually been going on, and, Jumbo made that switch to SRAM. And the one thing that I've noticed since then, and I'm speaking about Wout Van Aert, specifically is, and I don't know how it's affecting the other team riders, but what I've noticed just from watching is that it seems like he's struggling to find a gear combination that works with him. I'm sure they're running 12 speed, and it just looks like from the races that I've watched him race in cyclocross since making the switch and recently on the road, it seems like where he used to have the ability before to close gaps easily, it looks like he's struggling to do so. Now, there's a lot of different factors that come into that. I'd be remiss to think that it's his fitness, but I just have a feeling that, in my own personal opinion, that something's not right and he can't get comfortable with the new 12 speed. What do you guys think?
Mike, you want to jump in this one first?
Oh, sure, Chad. Here, I got it.
I'll go.
Go ahead, Chad.
Well, I guess the first thing that I was gonna, Rob kind of mentioned it in passing, was the function of derailleur hangers, right? To save the more expensive part, which is the frame. So now this new derailleur on the inside attaches or goes around the through axle, and on the outside goes on the frame. In that whole system, what does become the weakest link? Or if you hit it hard enough, something will break, and what will break first? What's the weak link in there? I guess you might put a big divot into the through axle, maybe. Hopefully it's not the carbon that breaks, because that's, well, I don't know. If there's a $700 cassette and a $1,000 derailleur, maybe it's not the most expensive piece anymore.
they have replacement like skid plates and stuff for the outside of the derailleur now.
Okay.
They're saying, you are going to scuff it up, but oh well. But I'm with you. I think honestly, where it's got to give somewhere. Something is going to give in some impact. And I hate to say it, but it's probably going to be the frame. It's probably going to be the chain stay or the seat stay.
Right.
And quite honestly, though, if they're carbon fiber, you're probably going to be able to get one fixed for about $300 for the carbon repair. And that's going to be cheaper than getting a new cassette or getting a new derailleur.
Yeah.
How messed up is that?
Yeah. I mean, according to what I saw on this new transmission and the information that I watched, Nino Schurter had ran it all last year in testing it. And if there's anyone worthwhile to test a brand new product, it's certainly Nino. And in one of the World Cups, he crashed really, really hard on the derailleur side. And in World Cup racing, they can't change bikes. They can do mechanicals and stuff like that. But apparently, he had no problems with it and continued on and went on to win the race. So, I mean,
yeah, it
says something.
I at first, when I first saw the concept of it, I was like, this is stupid, but whatever. No one cares what we think. And we obviously just are going down this shithole as a technology in this industry. So who cares? Nice positive thought, Rob, there for you. But my big thing was the more and more I've looked at it, the more I've thought about it, It's going to be one of the strongest setups we've put on a bike in a long freaking time. And there's because of that in and of itself, there's probably going to be fewer mechanicals that are going to cause people to drop out of events or not be able to get home. Now, when the mechanicals happen, when there is a failure, it's going to be of a catastrophic nature and it's going to be major. But I think in general, I'm just thinking of cross races. How many cross races do you see with somebody with a mangled derailleur, walking back? And that shit kind of goes away. They have a replaceable cage on the derailleur. You can just unscrew it like whatever times and pop the whole cage out. The pulleys are set up so if you get a stick in them or whatever, they still continue to rotate on the outside. So those kind of features, kudos. I actually see that as some innovation. It's nice to see it. Cool for mountain bikes, and still meaningless for me until they put it on real bikes. But
you have this unbelievable distaste for mountain bikes.
They just taste awful.
In reference to the gearing choices and the jumps, I always like to compare across disciplines. Mike, when we were racing track, how many chainring and cog combos did we have so that we can get it down to half an inch change or quarter inch change, so that you knew the speed you were going to go and you could dial in the RPM and everything was perfect. That doesn't mean anybody's ever going to be able to push Ghana's hour record gear except Ghana, So you can't push the gear ratios you got. I don't know, maybe get stronger or work on the bandwidth of your cadence range.
What are your guys' theories on this? We've talked about it a bit, and I post things every now and then. I think you've chimed in on something I posted, Chad, where I post like a corncob freewheeler cassette from back in the day. And I'm like, what the hell happened? Now we're in a race to the bottom to get the biggest freaking cog we can get on the rear wheel as possible, and everyone wants to pay more for it. The pay part I don't really care about. It's everyone just wants, I need more teeth on the back. And I was watching something the other day, totally unscientific thing, but this guy tried to go out and compare like an older premium group set to a modern lower level group set to see if they were comparable. And the only real difference between them mechanically was that the older one didn't go as deep in the rear. It had a much smaller cog for its larger cog. And he did a couple tests and repeat tests on a climb and found something that he thought was surprising. And what he found was that he was actually getting up the climb faster for the same power output, in essence, using the older gearing where it was tougher or harder to get up. And and he was like, that doesn't make any sense. He goes, on the other one, I was able to climb it sitting, but I still got up slower, and the powers were fairly relatively close, close enough that it didn't really seem like it was that big of a deal. And it just kind of got my brain kind of squirrel caging on all that, because it's like it stepped on something that I've kind of believed for a while. When I get to cyclocross, I notice something. When I race with a 2x in cyclocross, I race slower. And I find it's because I'll jump to the small ring and I'll just stay there. Now, if you go by the math, I have the ability to go into harder gears than I would go into if I was racing with a 1x. And by going to a 1x, I would go to a larger single chainring. So instead of having the 31 or whatever I have on a GRX, I would go to a 40-tooth chainring and race in that. And I did that this last year. I yanked my 2x out, I put a 1x back on, and I raced the same courses quicker than I was doing it before. And it's like, I don't know what it is. If you go by the numbers, that doesn't make any sense. But the reality is, as a rider, when I'm in that higher gear range, you just get it done. You just turn the gear. You just push it over. And I'm probably pushing myself harder than I normally would have. And if I have smaller gearing available to me, I'm just subconsciously taking the bailout and maybe not pushing it as hard. And I got to wonder what is with that. You were talking to yourself. You were just saying about how in track you're looking at, half-inch differences in the gear inches in what you're calculating, because the right gear has got to be the right gear in order for you to have the right power band in the right speed range for cadence and everything else for you biomechanically to have it work. And we know how important that is. To your point, you're saying the gaps are too big and there's empty spots right where it needs to be for somebody like Wout. And is it just that we spent so much time designing what gearing we were having to now just toss it all away and just say, well, we've done the calculations and we cover that range. So, you just got to adjust your cadence a little bit and you're fine. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I just put Shimano Claris 8-speed on my mountain bike, road STI shifters. So that's what I think.
Yeah.
Nice.
go with a single speed, mountain bike or single speed cross and single speed on the track. Just pedal it harder. Pedal
One gear, no fear. That's what they say.
On a normal 53, a one tooth jump in the back is around 7 or 8 RPM. So if you're having the front ring down to a 30, and then you're going 2 or 3 teeth in the back, then it's you're making 12 to 15 RPM jumps, which is you go from 100 down to 85. I mean
it's huge.
That's significant.
Jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, but why can't you just click up a gear and just pedal 15 RPM faster? Just because the gear ratio is higher, just feels different.
Because if you're at 100, 115 is a lot.
No, I mean 85.
Out.
If you're rolling at 85, why not just click up so your next gear lower?
Well, it comes to the point when you're going hard, right? Like you have an optimal range for muscular force and an optimal range for your cardiovascular input, and the closer you get to the maximum on each, the narrower that band gets. So if you're going as hard as you can, and you get asked to do 15 more RPM, it's just going to kind of throw everything to shit.
Yeah, no,
yeah. Go ahead, sorry, man.
No. I agree with you when you're going flat out. I mean, is this guy going flat out in his test?
He said, like I said, it wasn't scientific. It was all perception.
Most of the
he
time,
did measure the power, though.
Humans are most efficient at around 60 RPM in physiological tests. Untrained people.
60? Damn.
So why do we run at a higher cadence then? Is it just because it's easier to adjust to speed changes at that cadence?
Yep. Acceleration.
Yeah.
60 RPM seems awfully low. I mean, for the average person, maybe, but for the average bike racer, 60 RPM would be awfully slow. Seems awfully slow.
I don't think we know anybody that really races at 60.
No. Yeah. I mean, this is, again, just normal, everyday off the street folks. Like, they're not all that muscularly strong. They're not all that aerobically developed. That's probably where their muscular system and their aerobic system cross. But when you get stronger aerobically and stronger muscularly, everything has to go up. And if you're pedaling at 60, you're going to have way too much muscular fatigue. I
mean, back in the day when you had to have a high RPM, when Lancey Pants was running 120 RPM, it was to help blood flow. That's what I was always told. It was, this helps your blood flow. So you'd spin at a high RPM. Didn't feel good. I don't know if it was more efficient, but he made it look good. So I don't know.
Yeah, that was the thought during the time for sure. But it seems like
why is he pedaling so fast? Oh, it's got to be for blood flow.
It's got to be. It's got to be. Definitely not the motor.
Dirty blood flow.
When you're running out, bored out CCs and 3 extra pints, then you can transfer a little stress onto the cardiovascular system
and a little
bored out
linear servo motor in the bottom bracket. But
Yep.
Hey.
Yeah.
Turns out that was the only RPM that the motor would run at that they bought to put in there. They couldn't, voltage it down to run at a slower RPM.
I I think a good analogy with these gear ratios and all these groupos. I saw a nice little. I don't know if Tom Pidcock actually said it, but it was a nice little meme, and he was like, the gist of it was, like, hey, we've heard a lot about all these like aero and technology dorks this year, but funny how none of them won a race.
Yep.
Oh,
So
I missed
you can
that.
run your 62 with your internal 2-geared hub, and turns out you still get dropped.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think the ultimate thing would be to put one of these Pro Tour teams on like a older Dura-Ace or Campy or even SRAM Red Grupo and just have them at it. Have at it. It would be awesome to see that. I would totally ride for a team like that. Let's just run old. What number, Rob? What number group set do you want to put on there?
7,800.
Let's just
How
run
many
7,800.
How many times do you just see Spartacus or Scicon run a cabled shifter at Roubaix?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's like,
reliable.
no, this is better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah, you can fix it right there if you have to. You can make adjustments on the fly.
It
if you
doesn't
have to.
break.
Right.
Yeah.
And you guys know as well as anybody else, it's like it doesn't matter. It's not the gear. It's obviously the athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's in the athlete's mind that X, Y, or Z is way better than, PD and Q, then by God, put X, Y, and Z on there, and they're going to do better.
Yeah, because then you have an excuse,
Yeah,
right?
it's like
I lost.
so is this?
because I
Well,
didn't-
but to your point though, is this theory? Is this there's really a gap where physiologically Wout isn't able to cover the moves, isn't able to accelerate, or it's just not working for him?
I mean,
Is
the
it
guy
just the
has got
wrong
to be
combination
tired.
of gear, his physiology, situation, the speeds that they're at, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it could be any number of those. I mean, he might come around and get used to the gearing and find something that works for him. But for right now, it just looks like it's struggling with it a little
So
bit.
you're saying that we can chalk up every single time that Wout didn't win now to SRAM?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, it's what I'm saying.
I liked racing
would say
SRAM,
that-
Rob. I don't know.
I would
I
say
like
that
SRAM.
Vingegaard is not the Vingegaard from the Tour, but that doesn't mean that Vingegaard won't be Vingegaard next Tour.
Right.
I think
I'm looking
they
forward
just
to the
have
Tour.
a plan to be good later.
Yeah.
Well, wants to win Flanders and not Strade Bianche.
I just think all I'm saying is that I think it's interesting to think about the differences that changing that group midstream in a way has had on Wout, and whether or not that really has had a difference. I think it's an interesting thing to consider. I think it kind of points to what we being me and a couple other people have seen as a gap in the way SRAM has approached it. It's kind of one of these where pencil to paper, it seems like it works, and all the recreational cyclists love it, but is it really what needs to be there for competition? And is there some strange artifact that's happening in athletes and in racers in those situations with those gear combinations and that kind of power output and the needs at the time for acceleration, cadence, and everything else? Did they miss the boat? Did they screw up by throwing away what we've taken about 100 years to perfect?
I think it's not necessarily anything inherently wrong with a SRAM product.
No.
I think it is a little bit to do with what we know about drivetrain efficiencies and chains and cog sizes. By being the first to go down to a 10-tooth, like the power loss on a 10-tooth is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Right?
it's
There's a
huge.
fall up point at the 14, and if you're running smaller rings, you're always running in a smaller cog, and you're always going to give away 2 or 3 watts compared to the next cog up. That's why everybody runs big chain rings. It's not because they need to push a 60. They want to be in the 60-15 and not the 53-12.
There you go. Great point.
SRAM
And it
chains.
is
Spot on, mate.
people may not have picked that up. I'm going to rephrase it if you'll let me, and correct me if I misphrase it. But the idea of running a bigger chain ring isn't to have a bigger overall gear. It's to be able to kick the gear ratio that you need further upstream on your cassette so that you have less chain articulation and bend around your cog you have less articulation and bend around your chain ring, and you have a straighter chain line. All three of those factors will combine to greatly reduce the efficiency of your drivetrain, or your loss of power due to the friction from the chain being kicked over or having to articulate over a smaller cog.
Yeah, so like a 60-15 is the same gear rollout as a 55-14 is the same as a 52-13. But the 52-13 compared to the 60-15 is going to have 5 watts of power loss. If we're wearing Aero socks to gain 6 watts, you don't want to chuck that away because of you're running the same gear. You just want to have less power loss, right? And as the cog gets smaller and smaller, again, the fall-off point's the 14. So if we call the 14 neutral or 0, 13 is 2 watts, the 12 is 3 watts, the 11 is 4, and the 10 is 6. Or I should say, sorry, it's 1, 2, 4, and 6. So that's 250 watts. So at 1500 in the 10, you're losing 50 watts of power.
Just to kick it over.
That's going to make a difference.
Yep.
Wow. Just to pull the wheel over the gear. Just pull the chain over the gear to turn the wheel.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That friction associated with that efficiency in the design.
Well, it's just also
and that's
like
why
the
they
physics
started experimenting with larger rollers on the 12-speed, and it was to try to basically kick the center line of the chain out a little bit, even though it's going over that same gear ratio. So in effect, kind of not changing the pitch, but kind of changing the pitch on the chain to be able to get a little bit more mechanical efficiency on that smaller cog.
Yeah, but the SRAM chains are actually the worst tested.
Absolutely.
The flat tops, so it didn't work.
Yes, they are.
So
Fun stuff.
Yep.
So
Nerds.
put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I'm learning all kinds of stuff.
SRAMites.
Yeah.
I still love SRAM, though. I like the stuff. I do. I've
Anyway,
installed a lot of
Shimano is
groups
available
lately.
at any bike shop.
Shimano's a fabulous group, has been since.
This podcast brought to you by Shimano USA.
Yeah,
I get no money
right.
from Shimano. I get no money from SRAM. Trust me.
Thanks, Green Stedna.
Wayne left.
Oh, did he?
He left Shimano and he went to SRAM.
Oh.
He actually is in charge of Wayne Stetna. I mean, you guys know Wayne, but for those that don't know, Wayne is like, I don't know, how do you phrase Wayne? The grandfather of road racing in America, or him and his brother?
Yeah, about as OG as it gets.
Yeah.
You know, just there's not too many family legacies. The Symes and the Stetnas, kind of about it.
And they go back, way back, 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
And then Wayne has been has been the face of Shimano USA. I don't know when he started, but late 70s, early 80s maybe, when they really started to push into the road market. And he was the face of them, and he left during the pandemic, I think. It was at the very start of the pandemic. It made the news. And he left Shimano and went to SRAM. There's a lot of talk about why he did it, motivations. But in reality, it really kind of most likely comes down to the fact that he's of retirement age. And, by taking the position that he was taking, he was going to be able to work from home a lot. And it was going to work in and work a little bit better. But he's in charge of, I believe, the field. They've got everybody is redefining and renaming all these jobs. But in essence, he's over all the outside reps, sales reps. But now it's like he's in charge of rider experience, or whatever the hell they want to call it, under whatever corporate lingo they're using nowadays.
Just give me the inside secrets to Shimano, and we'll pay you for it.
What's that?
Just
Yeah,
give me the
right.
inside secrets at Shimano, and we'll pay you for it.
Secrets are working.
I don't know no stinking secrets.
It working except for the Shimano Dura-Ace power meter. But that's
That's it. He's actually an undercover agent to go figure out how it works.
yeah. Then he needs to go to South Dakota, figure that one out. Quark is a great company.
Yeah.
I mean, SRAM. SRAM's a great company. So anyway, that would be the discussion on all that silly stuff. But that kind of led into, being able to cover that move at Milan-San Remo and not hitting it.
Yep.
Did you set that up at all? Did you talk about that? I kind of zoned out for a second when you were talking about
briefly
his ability. But basically, I don't know if you guys watched Milan-San Remo this last weekend, but MVP had a move. They were all kind of doing moves up near the top, and he took off, went to go close it, and didn't close it. And that was the difference between winning the race or not. And he lost that, and we were kind of theorizing that it could have had something to do with just enough being off with churning that gear in that gear ratio at that time. Sure, it could have been the athlete or whatever else, but I mean, it seems like it's amazing to try to be able to look at the speed and the accelerations that those guys are giving on that last climb, after 6 hours of racing at that point?
Just about, yeah. I mean,
7.5.
Yeah, I think they did it in 6 and change this year. Ridiculously fast. They had quite a bit of tailwind.
So, I mean, Mike, you raced it. What's it like to try to come up with that kind of power that far into that race? Or what's that race like, just racing that long of a distance?
Stressful. It was stressful, but, I mean, it was just, I did it twice. My job was just to get to the first right-hand turn on the Cipressa with the guys at the front of the group and then, ride up as far as I could and then pull the pin. I remember coming off the Poggio and just remembering how fucked my legs were after riding 300K, and I also remember thinking how fast it was the farthest I'd ever ridden, farthest I'd ever raced. Wow. But I remember just, like those kinds of races, if you got to do them more than once to really start to get good at them. Even doing it twice was not enough to really you get your feet truly wet and understand how the racing dynamic goes in a race like that. I mean,
just from the physical exertion or from the dynamics of how the race plays out?
Well, I mean, it's there's a couple of climbs before you even get to the main two there at the end, but it's just long. The group pretty much stays together because it's long after the early climb. So it was really, it's not even that stressful. It's only stressful at the very end, but it's just a race of attrition because you just wear each other down and everyone wants to be in the early breakaway. Races just like every other, race that ever happens. Breakaway goes up the road, field sits up, and it comes back together because you chase back, and then you smash up the climbs at the end. I mean, it really wasn't that exciting, Rob. I don't know what to tell you. It's just like any other bike race. I mean, it was. I'm
going to go out on a limb here and say that Milan-San Remo is not like any other bike race, but we'll let that one.
Dude, every single line of every bike race I ever lined up on, it felt exactly the same. A little bit more stress at Paris-Roubaix, but it always felt the same. I mean, my armpits would sweat. You pin the number on, keep sweating. Line up. Well,
why more stress than Paris-Roubaix?
No. Paris-Roubaix was more stressful.
Oh, okay. Than Milan-San Remo?
Yeah.
Or than anything?
Probably more than anything, just because you know what you're racing.
For you, I mean, what did you place the most stress on to not necessarily just perform, but to do your job or to do well? Like, which race was like, oh, my God, I mean, just the thought of it brings night sweats out in you?
I mean, I didn't sleep before Milan-San Remo. I was rooming with Swain Tuft, and he fell asleep so fast. We were sleeping in these tiny little Italian beds, and he fell asleep and was snoring next to me so fast, and I did not sleep. I could not sleep. Part of that was nerves, part of that was excitement, part of that was the anxiety of not sleeping, and mad at Swain for snoring next to me. So, that was stressful, knowing I didn't sleep a wink before one of the longest races in the world that I was ever going to do. I don't know. I don't think I'm really answering your question very clearly.
Did you find that happen both times?
It happened multiple times, dude. I didn't sleep. I can remember a number of races I didn't sleep at. Paris-Roubaix, Milan-San Remo, Tour Colorado, the first stage out of Durango, didn't sleep. The Olympics, I didn't sleep very good. World Cup, I didn't sleep very good leading up to that. Anything where you had like real stress on the line, and looking back, like these are areas I could have changed my career to like, I needed someone to like calm the mind. I was not good at calming my mind down, and just letting it go. I was too tuned up, too excited for it, too in the moment, But once you get on the start line, it kind of resets, but it definitely affects you for not sleeping. But I remember not sleeping before Milan-San REMO and knowing that I was on the start line with not sleeping the night before.
Oh, that's gotta suck.
Some guys have the gift to just do that. Like now, like I have, it's just interesting to think back on. It's just, the anxiety of that. It's funny. I didn't even remember that until we just started talking. It's just
those memories. You didn't sleep?
Yeah.
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 So it's not your primary memory coming away from it then. What would be your primary memory?
I remember turning right on the Cipressa. I remember leading into it. I remember getting up, and I remember coming down the Poggio. I remember the turns on the Poggio. I mean, it all blurs together. I remember the first climb. What's the first climb at Milan-San REMO? It starts with a T. Turchino
or whatever.
I remember that one being really hard, even though it was really early on, and then you still had like 200K after that,
Ooh.
But yeah, I mean, again, I shouldn't say all the races are the same, because I slept a lot of other races, no problem. It was, you're getting ready. This is why I'm saying it's almost good to have practice runs one year and you go back the next year and the next year after that, like knowing what to expect. I was so excited to be there and so thrilled to be part of the team that was doing these big races, that, that's kind of what added to it. That's what I remember, man. I remember being stressed out. But, I still did my job. It just could have been better. Because who knows, I don't know. We were so fast, dude, so fast up the Cipressa. It was like, 550 watts for me. I mean, I know Vanderpool, what do you do, 568 for like 8 minutes or some crazy shit?
I haven't seen any statistics.
It was some crazy number.
He took 8 seconds off the KOM.
Yeah, it was some crazy power number for like. That's the other thing about those guys, man, is how do they fucking hit the gas so hard for so long in the cross season and in the road season? Huh?
They had a tailwind. They had a tailwind this year.
It's amazing. They're amazing. They're like mutants.
Yeah, I think it's incredible that you can have such little time between high performance in your cyclocross season and finding high performance this early in the road season.
Have we've talked about
We've
that,
talked a
haven't
little
we?
bit about it, yeah.
Okay. About not really like taking time off and really just kind of
take like micro breaks.
Yeah. Surfing that a bit. I don't know, Chad, as a coach, what do you find? You finding more athletes are doing that instead of, I think our theory or our discussion was that people are more surfing this cycle instead of doing classic periodization.
Yeah, I mean, I think, when me and Mike were teammates and we were on a very similar schedule, which was road all year and then almost straight into track and doing World Cups and the World Championships and then back onto the road, we didn't have a break, same thing with elite, really high level cross. They do the same thing all winter. Track used to be a winter sport. And I think everybody has their level. And I guess the saying that is most applicable here is in order to have a good year, you have to have a really good last year, just to kind of keep that momentum and keep building. And, the other saying is good motivation comes from having good legs. So it's I think once that momentum starts to swing and things are going positively, I would never really peak for events. I would just get to a level that was at or above the demands of competition, and we would race there for a really long time. And I think when I look at Van der Poel and Wout and Pogacar. Those guys don't seem like they really peak for much. I mean, maybe they put a little emphasis on cross-world, like Van der Poel puts a little emphasis on cross-worlds, but they just seem to be like at their normal, which is an excessively stupid high level.
Yeah.
But they just maintain like they're 99% all the time, right? They're never trying to push to be 101 except for the Tour de France or the World Championships, and that's it. So
it's pretty amazing. I mean, yeah, Vanner went for a run right after Milan-San REMO, 10K, just busted it out. Yeah.
I saw that.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you, Chad. I mean, it is. They just run at such a high level. The 1%.
Like Mike, when you would prepare for the classic season and you were gutting yourself with intervals with Maggie, it wasn't that you were looking at a particular race, but you were looking at a 2 or 3 week period, and you knew you were just going to be good at some point in there. And whenever the magic sort of came, you were 12th at both.
Yeah, it's like one of those magic boxes.
Yeah. You never know when it's going to pop, but when it does, it does.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, I mean,
Like Tim, you dominate Chicago cross, but like there's a couple guys that when they show up, you're always in a toe-to-toe battle, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes you beat them, sometimes they beat you. Is Wout losing Milan-San REMO because of SRAM, or is it just, Van der Poel?
No, I think you hit it. I think you hit it on the head earlier, where you said, Milan-San REMO is a goal, but it's not one of his primary goals for the year. I mean, obviously he's got to balance. For sure he's going to be on the Tour de France team, so he's got to balance that. Mm-hmm. And that 3-week nightmare that he's about to go under. So you don't want to you want to be there and be almost your best. And then you said, earlier, his main objectives are Flanders and Roubaix. So he's got to balance, his performance at San Remo versus, these upcoming 2 races versus whatever he has after that, and then going to the Tour. So it's a lot on his plate to manage. So
let's be honest, he was totally crap because he was only the 4th best in the world at San Remo, right? Trash.
God, what's
that? No, and I'm not pointing his performance at his as group set by any means, but it was just an observation that I had in watching him over the last couple of months since making that switch from manufacturer, and it was just a thought that popped into my head, and I wondered
those first 3 cross races for him were rough.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's an interesting, I think, on the gearing side, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it, I think it's an interesting concept because it really only popped up with SRAM during the last, 12-speed era. When you go back to the 11-speed stuff, they were still traditional gearing. And, it just really didn't seem like it was much of an issue. It just, a lot of people seem to be talking about how that whole 10 cog is putting weird gaps in weird places, and they just aren't comfortable with it. Some people don't notice, and some people love it and think that they're riding better. So obviously, neuromuscularly or biomechanically, it just is working for them. I think it's an interesting concept, and I do think it takes – the differences are such that it takes some adaptation for individuals. It's not as easy to jump from one to the other, I don't think. When you're talking about that pointy edge, when you're talking about that fine-tuning, I think it's got some effect. Is it losing Milan-San REMO level? We all think probably not, but it's interesting to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not dissimilar from, if you pay attention to team pursuit, right? The goalposts move so much from Olympic cycle to Olympic cycle. It was just after 2000 that the Germans broke 4 minutes for the team pursuit, and now we're down to 340.
340? We're 340?
342.
They took 18 seconds more. I can't believe that. I have to look that up, dude. I can't.
No, seriously, like, yeah, it was like Sydney.
They got Mike. I don't know if you heard, but they got taller socks.
Dude, we're at 358 for the individual pursuit.
Yeah.
Even I knew that, and I'm not a trackie.
Mike's been out of touch for a minute.
I haven't paid attention to this stuff in forever, man. I mean, I've been focused on kids.
Yeah.
I gotta look this up.
Now you're making me feel bad because I haven't been focused on my kids.
Well, that's a you problem.
Jesus,
Andrew
dude.
just turned
What
17.
the fuck, dude?
Happy birthday,
346, 342. You're right.
Yep.
342
Crazy.
4K.
Does this make you want to get back on and give it a shot or what?
Go for 341.
I mean, that's 44 miles an hour from a standing start.
Did you say 44?
Average for
44.
the entire
Average.
distance.
43, 44, something like that.
We would have
65,
been lapped. Me, Creed, Pate, and Huff,
414.
and sometimes
We did a 414.
yeah, we would have been lapped twice plus some, and we were going full gas. That's insane.
You've been lapped
342.
twice, dude. Twice.
Yeah, in one race, in one. It was so depressing.
You get off your bike straight to retirement.
That is so fast.
I don't. It's not depressing at this point because it's just a different. They've moved the goalposts.
Yeah.
You know, to Chad's
There's
point.
been huge gap between.
Yeah, well,
your
next
time
year
and
it'll be
the
a
time
320
It's
Yeah.
not all. It's not all bio. It's not all training and
or
athlete
420,
related
whatever.
either. There's a lot. There's a lot to be said about
equipment.
the creation of marginal gains as a concept coming through track events and team pursuit. And
Yeah, but dude, the marginal gains, like you're talking about training and fitness, and like I mean, the aero stuff. How much more aero is there year now compared?
Oh
to
no,
when we
they
were
have
on?
gained. That's where this whole modern concept of the modern era of marginal gains came out of track improvements, and they were talking. That's quite literally where the soccer with the UCI came out, was because of the just pure wattage that you would gain from wearing these socks or using a tape on the front of your legs.
I'm so getting aero socks. Oh, do you want to hear? You want to hear something funny? I don't know if you guys heard this, and I don't mean to interrupt, but back in for Primos's first race when he had hairy legs, I heard commentators on a program that I was watching. I think it was on GCN. They said the most aerodynamic is shaved in the front, hair in the back.
Yes.
So leg mullet. That is the most aerodynamic
Party
thing you
up
can do.
front. Or
Yeah.
no. Business up front.
I
Party in the
totally
back.
want to try that.
Obviously
Shaved
never
in
had
the
a mullet.
front and leg hair in the back.
So
They're
do you
just
get
saying
like tape
stuff
on
to
hair?
People believe it.
Hey, how can I not believe it?
Right?
I might try that with my, personal grooming.
I don't know. It could be a joke, but it sounded funny and I laughed. So
Business up front,
Job
party in
done.
the back.
Could you just tape on?
maybe
more hair?
that's got to stem off of all the mullets that are flying around in the pro peloton
Yeah.
these days. I don't know.
I
They're gonna
still love that.
dude.
that-
We have a business idea here. We could just start selling these strips of like double-sided tape that have hair, and you just stick it to the back of
You
your
just put them
calf,
on the back of your leg.
and you just shave the
Dude.
front.
Aero
Nike-
party.
Nike made
Aero
basically
party.
kinesio tape strips with like little arrow chevrons for like what's his name, the Galen Rupp in the 10K like Olympic trials. He ran with like little
So
little arrow leg stickers.
just
I mean,
fake
the
injury.
airflow.
Yeah.
It's your biggest thing
Oh.
on your bike is the body. So, airflow over the body definitely
Yeah.
makes a difference. It is surprising that, the disruption of the hair in the back of the calf area is interesting.
Well, I mean,
would've
you're
thought-
disrupting the boundary layer when you're dealing
Yeah.
with that. So,
Turbulent
It's-
linear flow.
yeah, it's that's where the drag comes from. So, it makes perfect sense. But we'll see. One other thing I wanted to get to before we got out of here was the little bit of I won't say controversy, but let's just say what your guys' take is on it. Don't know if you heard, but Cavendish got himself into a little bit of trouble this last week, or I should say Astana did. Cavendish refused to wear the Scicon sunglasses. The team, Astana, is sponsored by them, sunglasses-wise, and all the riders are required to wear these Scicon sunglasses for competition. Obviously, Cavendish, I say obviously, I don't really pay attention to sunglasses, but the people that do assure me that Cavendish is well known for racing in Oakleys and
His entire career.
always. And it was always kind of a question of whether or not he was going to actually wear the team appropriate sponsor sunglasses or not. And showed up for the team picture, didn't have anything on, so it was okay there. But then showed up for the first races this year and had his Oakleys on. And Scicon said, that's a violation of our contract. You need to get him to wear them or we're done. Or like out of here. And there was some discussion between the company official and that really ethical team owner, Alexander Vinokurov, who's running the team, about whether or not, they were doing the right thing, what have you. And the short of it is they pulled out and they are asking for their sponsorship money back, saying that Astana basically violated the sponsorship contract that they have. Brings up some questions for me. I can see how a lot of people that are involved in the sport kind of go, who really cares? Just one rider. Why would you pull out your whole sponsorship for this or that? As a brand that maybe isn't as popular, who's had to put wheels underneath people at my own expense in the past, I have run into similar issues where you have one person on the team who's like, I don't want to use that. I want to use something else. And it is infuriating. And it feels like somebody just took a giant dump all over the little bit of pocket money I had that I had to pull out and lay out just to get my name out there. But I kind of wanted your guys' takes. I mean, it's commonly known, and I'm sure you guys have done it, but there's times where you're using some gear that isn't necessarily sponsor correct, and you've handled it. Yes? No? You think of any instances in the past?
Yeah, numerous.
Rob, I have a great one. If you know the history of the teams that I ran, you know that I ran a team that used to be title sponsored by a wheel company. And the wheel company, or the hub manufacturing company, they were still kind of in the prototyping phase, and like they weren't what we would all kind of deem public ready yet.
I had totally forgotten about that until now.
So the prominent guys on the team would ride heads or Bontraggers or whatever. Until we got like the situation sorted, but it became enough of an issue that the company decided not to sponsor the team the next year. And the irony of that is the previous year, when the owner was a professional rider riding for another team, he refused to ride that team's wheels because they were garbage, and he got there was a photograph of him winning a race on his own wheels, and that wheel company pulled from that team, and they sued them for money. So, yeah, I've literally been in this situation, except, it would be in this case if Scicon, wouldn't wear, whatever glasses were on their previous team, and that sunglass company sued their previous team. So, yeah, it can go either way, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
and it's
without
interesting.
naming names, it gets a little confusing.
Yeah, without saying names, and I won't add to the names, but you said something that piqued my interest. They pulled out the second year. Were they willing to provide the wheel sets the second year or no?
No.
I'm assuming you guys were still racing on what you had because that's what you had.
Oh, no, like we broke, I don't know, 15 rims that year.
Really?
Like none of the wheels were any good.
Is that, I have not looked, but that company's not still around, is it?
No, they're no longer in business.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured.
I would be hard
I
pressed to
still
ride.
see the hub parts now and then, but
What
I
were
would
you
be
saying,
hard pressed to ride a set of wheels that weren't prototype ready for public use yet, especially racing on them. That'd be sketchy. I mean, it's a safety thing when you're going 35, 40 miles an hour and riding wheels that, I don't know.
It's interesting that you say that because also have skin in this game. I don't want to say I'm unique in this, but I think I'm slightly different in that it's my name and it's me personally, and I'm the one that has a direct connection with everybody. I have always been in the position of I can't imagine. I've always said I have to stare somebody in the eye at the race. I'm at the race, and I have to look somebody in the eye at the race. And the last thing I can imagine doing is having something out there that is going to cause a problem, let alone put somebody at risk, safety or health-wise. And that, but I can easily see how a larger company or a company that doesn't just go out to the races, they're just looking to chuck wheels, and flip bucks. And to me, if I were at one of those companies and part of that culture, I can easily see how they'd just be like, yeah, whatever, man. You need like 20 of them? Oh, you broke like 10? Cool. We'll send you 10 more. Yeah. What else do you want? I mean, geez.
You're like, how about send 15 because the next 5 are going to break too.
Right. I may
sketchy.
have thrown this anecdote out there, and once again, we won't mention names. There was a very large cyclocross team that had a lot of wheels from a sponsor, and I was sponsoring a very small cyclocross team. And the mechanic for that, who is still working as a mechanic in Europe now, but the mechanic for that team goes, he actually contacted me. He was like, I'm really, really, really shocked. I'm like, why is that? And he goes, I kind of thought we were going to have problems because we didn't have that many wheel sets that you sent over to make it a go. But I haven't had any problems at all with any of these all year. And we've gone through all sorts of conditions. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not too awful surprised, but thank you for calling me and telling me. And he goes, I got to tell you, I went on the blah, blah, blah bus, and the stack of wheels that they had in the corner of cracked rims was just staggering. And they're just like, yeah, no, we go through a couple every weekend. It is what it is. And they send us more, so we don't really care. It just takes time gluing on tires.
That's Wayne Stetna in charge of rider experience. Oh, sorry.
I don't know, maybe.
Back to the cab thing,
no idea.
Back to the cab thing. Is that how you say that company's name?
Scicon?
Scicon?
I watched the video before this. I would have said Scicon or but it's technically pronounced Scicon.
Okay, Scicon. I mean, their glasses look a lot like the Oakleys. I don't understand what Cav's problem is with riding something different. You can't
tell me he doesn't have a one-off deal with Oakley.
He's got a personal deal with Oakley that he's had forever. Same way he's got a Nike deal that he's had forever, and he's probably getting paid a shitload of money to run those products. And if I'm him, I'm not giving up that paycheck in the waning years of my career.
And to be honest with you, I wouldn't either. And if I were him, I wouldn't put it past him to have talked to Vinokurov and been like, if they're going to pull out, how much was it? And I guarantee you it's a fraction of what he's getting in his own personal deal.
Let's be honest. Astana's not really setting the world tour on fire right now. Scicon should just go put all their eggs in the UAE basket and focus on Pogacar and his team, Jayco, and what they've got going on there, and if they have any women's teams. Losing Astana's not really that big a deal if I'm Scicon.
I also think they had a contract, so a contract's a contract.
Fully.
Yeah, what they put it up in Kazakhstan?
I don't know.
What did you guys? To Mike, you said there was a great example of debadging or rebadging that you had. What was yours?
We did this all the time, and we had to. Like Mavi, when we had to wear their shoes, there were two. I have these. If you looked at my cycling shoes, it looks like I'm wearing like a. I don't know. Like I have flippers for like a. I don't know. Looks like I'm wearing like a giant ski boot because my feet are so wide. I could never wear them. My feet would hurt. So I'd always have to wear booties over them. We had this happened at the Olympics. My felt TK1 was one of the original TK1s, so it was super heavy, and I was riding. I had really good results on this Teschner that was way lighter and just felt way more nimble. But I had to ride the felt because that's who we were sponsored by, even though I really wanted to ride the Teschner. This happened all the time. This happens all the time. You try to be as sponsor correct as possible because they ultimately are paying your paycheck. But I'm not what Cav was or is. So the guy is gonna. he's going to tie Merckx's record or exceed it. So, you know, it's a pretty good place to be, you know.
He's got a lot more power. I actually had an experience with this. I forgot about this back in my BMX days. I was on a team and we reluctantly had to wear LA Gear sneakers.
Oh.
And I was like, dude, there's no way I'm wearing these. They handed me like a pair of like tennis style LA Gears and like a high top basketball pair. And
Did they have the lights in the bottom?
Either one of these.
Oh, that was LA lights.
So for like,
you had the tube socks rolled down on top.
No, so for like the first 3 races, I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I showed up in Vans, and I'd get talking to, and I'm like, I'm still not doing this. And then I got a real stern talking to, and was like, all right, I'll wear your LA Gears. But you modify the soles a little bit with the Dremel or whatever.
LA Gear. That's a sick sponsor.
Dude, call that guy up and get that sponsorship.
I mean, I wish I had the high top ones now. They were pretty cool.
We had no idea how cool they were at the moment.
But again, I wasn't receiving a paycheck either, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When I rode on Jelly Belly, I wrote to, remember those LA lights? Kids wear them. I wanted to get LA lights for the whole team, so you'd be walking through the airport and lighting up on your fuel. I thought those were so cool.
LA lights with Heelys.
Heelys. Perfect recovery shot.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to walk.
Yeah.
I just Heely to the bus.
Yeah, sponsorship is an interesting thing, and as somebody who has sponsored teams, I can tell you it gets touchy. I remember one specific instance. I had a team that I had a very long arrangement with, and there was one rider that just wouldn't do it. Just wouldn't even try the wheels. Just kind of was just like, yeah, well, whatever. I mean, you give them to us anyway, so I'll just ride what I want. And then it ended up being a bunch of conversations back and forth with team management, and it was like, you know, that's cool. If you really feel that way, I don't need to be involved. You know, I can definitely use my money for something else. So it's interesting and there's a difference between a small manufacturer and a small product versus a large manufacturer and a large product. You know, at one point I remember one discussion, because there's all sorts of games that go on the back end. I got out leveraged by a very large corporation who basically told the team, you got to get rid of that guy's wheels or we're pulling everything. And so I was given the ultimatum of, hey, you want to pay for everything? You know, you can pay for everything and then we'll still ride your wheels, or I got to let you go. And so it's one of those where it's like, it's a pay-to-play thing. Obviously, it's a sponsorship. You know, that's kind of what those things go. But so hopefully not everybody puts a bunch of weight into all the sponsor decisions that are made. I see it all the time on like forums and stuff where people are like, oh, well, they run this on this team, you know, so they must really like it. No, they don't really like it. It's what they got. It's what they were told that they had to use. And it's a part of a contract where there's pay involved and everything else. So sometimes it's a really good thing, you know. Sometimes they search out those contracts. But I still think, you know, we were talking about it earlier. Let's get an older team running older gear. You know, we buy it all ourselves, and who cares? And see what gear selections everybody makes.
Mike, let's start that old guy NCL team with you, me, Huff, Kando.
Dude.
We'll run 7,800. We'll run 10-speed, round 2 bikes. Strelecki, how's your sprint? You want to race with us in the NCL?
Nah, man, I'll be your water boy.
You know,
I'll put your Embro on.
It would be fun, Chad. It would be fun. I don't think we would be able to hang. I don't know, man. I don't know. What did I do recently? Or I was like, shit, dude. I've been kind of on the regime though. I've been like no carb for a while. So I did a group ride that's supposed to be like a race simulation this week. I made it a lap, and I was like, well, I'm glad I don't race anymore. But I think it has more to do with the dietary crap that I was doing. Chad, count me in, dude. If you want to race, dude, I'll definitely race with you, dude. I'm in.
All right.
Well, not to jump on the NCL thing, but maybe we'll touch on it later, but there may be another team jumping into the NCL.
I think that's what I saw.
Those guys look good, man. The teams look good. Those guys are training. I see those guys riding by today actually going to motor pace, you know? So, I mean, the disruptors, some of those guys, not all of them.
Just hop in on that train, Mike, and be
Here you
like, yo, I'm here.
Can I get a tryout?
I'm training.
Just disrupt the disruptors.
Yeah.
It's all about disruption.
Then you just look at them and like, San Remo twice, bitch.
They have an NCL tryout in Miami. It's like, I think you go to the USA Cycling, you do the watt bike sprint thing, and you'll be able to crack 1800.
Hey, if I were to try out for the old guy team, what would my minimum watt requirement be?
Oh,
It's all about watts these days.
Boy, you're fine. You're pretty enough.
There you go.
You're exempt.
Well, shit, if he's pretty enough, what do I end up doing?
Sick. Let's do this.
Chad, how do you think we would fare? How do you think we would fare, Chad, if we had everybody? If we had you, me, Huff, Pate, how do you think we'd fare in some of these races?
I think the first couple would be rough, but then you guys would figure it all out, and then you would.
The old age and wisdom
you would be really good.
Would come to play after a while.
I don't know.
The average pace of these races are not as hard. Like the average wattage just isn't. I think it's fast, right? Like they're on faster equipment, faster kit, faster wheels. But I think just the depth of race skill on display today just is not where it used to be.
I would agree.
It doesn't look like it. It looks like people are just, there's the few teams that actually know how to race a really good race and race crits really, really well. And then everyone else is just all over the place, hanging on, chopping corners, spiking their pedals and just hanging on for dear life, where you guys have all that high level experience. Yes, you
10
may
years
be
old,
removed
dude.
from it, but you guys, I think you guys would be, the first few might be rough.
So you should do it.
Yeah, I fully think you guys should do it. I think we start like a petition or a fan page, or get the band back together.
The kids do a hashtag.
GoFundMe.
What are hashtags still cool or no?
Yeah.
We could wear glasses like these.
Mike, you're back in shape. You're getting back in shape. Chad, you're in
These
shape.
will be our new team sponsor glasses right here.
Yeah. You guys just roll up to the start line, flip those bad boys down, and be like,
dude, I would be pretty motivated to train for something like that. I would be really motivated to train just see and to ride with the guys again at a high level. If we had an old
I bet you
dudes
guys
team,
would click, no problem.
it would be
I
fun
really
as hell.
do think you guys would probably do okay.
I think you guys would too. I really do. And
And you'd definitely be the crowd favorites.
if anybody out there watching or listening wants to argue that, let's
Listen,
do it.
we all love the basic, the movies, of cycling movies of our youth, Breaking Away, American Flyers. They all have a central theme. There's an underdog, that everybody falls in love with. You guys
The underdog.
You guys could be the underdogs.
The old underdog.
Yeah.
The old
This would be
dogs.
like
Old
Armageddon meets Breaking Away.
Yeah.
I actually ran this by somebody, and he said that he'd be more interested in watching cycling just to follow something like that because he could relate to guys our age more than he could relate to the young guys racing.
I mean, if they knew what was good for them, the storyline that would be created by, a team of ex-teammates getting back together and trying to roll this new crit style of racing.
And at this point,
dude,
they probably need to do something like this.
I would pay money to watch you guys
The only
race.
way I would do this if we could get like an A-team van and like a Hearst as our team vehicles.
No, let's work on that, Rob.
We need an A-team van, like a old like kick-ass van.
Yeah.
Well, Chad, you got a Sprinter, right? We can paint it to look like an A-team.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, where is this here?
Dude, I would train for something like that. I would actually enjoy doing. I wouldn't want to
You
crash,
two
but
seem
I would.
like you're. Yeah, there you go.
See?
You two seem like you're
That's the
definitely.
old
red
Optum
stripe
van.
on it.
Yeah.
Paint
That's
it
the old
black and
Optum
do a
van.
red stripe.
Paint it black, red stripe. Yeah. Rally cycle.
There you
Dude,
go.
I like it. It is real, yeah.
I know, Mike. I know you wanted to buy that from Pat, but I got it.
There's more than one, isn't
Guys,
there? Isn't there more than
there's
one
two.
van down there? Yeah.
You guys
I
got to
told him
work
I'd
on
be
Huff.
interested.
Huff seems reluctant to do it.
He does seem reluctant to do it. So does Pate. So does Andy Bajagelli. Trust me, I've asked. So does Kando. They're all reluctant.
It's right.
Dude,
Isaac,
What are they
asked them all.
going to do? Go race gravel?
They all have kids. They don't want to
How about-
Bring the
crash.
kids along. It's a
We'll get-
family-friendly sport.
we'll get Isaac Howe and Bahadian down there too.
Ooh.
I don't know if
Now we got
Rasan would do
sprinters.
it. I don't know if Rasan would do it. Rasan, the last time I spoke to Rasan, he said he had some back issues and hip issues going on. I don't know if he'd be down.
Yeah, he had that the whole time. He's fine.
Yeah.
He's still winning like CBR crits.
Yeah, dude,
I can
dangle
see
something like
Rasan
this
being
out in
down
front of
with
him
that.
and see what he says.
Yeah.
I could see Rasan maybe going for it. That would be a fun team. We would be a fun team.
I saw
Be
I
a crowd
saw
favorite for sure.
I saw Rasan racing at the LA Velodrome at some like weeknight thing, and he like out sprinted like Eddie. I think it was Eddie Huntsman or some kid who's on the national team. I'm like, dude, he's 40, man.
Yeah.
It's because Rasan is
40 and
badass.
probably trains like 2 hours a week.
He does. I'm like, that's proof right there. Like
Muscle
his-
memory doesn't fade.
It's
I loved when he rolled up into Intelli the first year he was racing Masters. And all those guys at the start line were like, oh shit, he's old enough now. And just looking at the look on their face when he rolled up to the line, last minute, it was beautiful to watch.
It was fun. It was fun to ride against him.
We need a team name.
What do they
That's
call
gonna have to-
those?
The
The
disruptor
replacements
disruptors.
or the what's the name of that? I don't know. There's got to be a movie of a bunch of old washed
We're
up
gonna
people
work on
coming
this.
back to do
Yeah.
something.
You guys are
Yeah,
going to be in the
but-
NCL 2024.
what was that Stallone and Schwarzenegger?
That's what
movie?
I'm thinking. Was it the replacements or the red?
Yeah, replacements or the Indestructibles or
Yeah, something like that.
That's good.
The Indestructibles. We have capes. We roll up with a cape. You take your cape off in the line.
Dude, we can line up sponsorships from
one of our riders has the highest
Icy
bone
Hot.
density known to man.
because every cycling company
AARP.
marketing guy raced with us, and they'd rather sponsor us than any of these other guys.
Oh yeah, 100%.
All right, anybody, I don't
100%.
know how many people listen to this crap that we talk about, but anyone who listens to this that used to race with us that wants to get down on this, let's seriously have a conversation because I could see this being fun and just fun. You only live once, right? So why not make some more memories?
You guys would have a blast.
The thing is we also know, like, I don't know. You know how to talk to people differently now. You know how to, like, just be yourself. You don't not sleep at races anymore, It's like, it'd be easy. That part would be easier.
You guys could show up and...
I don't know, man. I did the Littleton crit. I hadn't been training. I did Littleton crit, and I was tasting blood on, like, lap 4. But I hadn't been training, so, Anyways.
You guys be like the old dog, show up in a jersey and bib, ankle socks.
I'm
hairy
sure we're
legs.
not the only beyond age guys that would be willing to do this. I mean, what's Dominguez doing? We need some other guys. What are these other guys doing? Some of these guys are a little older than us.
Dominguez is a semi-pro triathlete.
That's cool.
Who else? Who else would be good on there? Bobby Lee would be good. He could be good. Dean Ellison would be good.
Go get Moniger. He's still racing.
Is he still racing?
Yeah.
The
He comes
Iceman.
out to Intelli.
Yeah, every now and then, yeah.
We get Jamie Carney in there. He'd be good.
Yeah, get a Carney. Get an Elliston.
Elliston would be good. Elliston would be good.
You just be smart. Make everybody pay.
Just a team of just big
Yeah,
dudes.
we're going to need group sets and wheels. Rob, we need wheels.
I'd figure something out.
You would.
He's like, I got
Yeah.
enough 10 speed in the back here.
We got
We don't have to grow
got you,
him.
I got a couple
We don't have to grow
got you covered on
mustaches.
wheel.
Race 7800
Yeah.
groups.
Wheels, chamois cream, and coffee. We got you covered.
So on that note, if you would like to buy any chamois cream, please go out and find some Enzo's Buttonhole chamois cream at your local retailer. If they don't stock it, ask them to go ahead and stock it. Otherwise, it is sold online at a myriad of places that you can easily find. Outside of that, try some 11 Jackson coffee. You can always buy that through the cymet.com website. And if you need any wheels, talk to us. We are your solution at cymet.com. That's spelled with a P. The P is silent, like my cycling Palmares. On that note, we got to bring this one to a close. Thank you once again for joining us. The Road is Dead podcast. Same time next week. Like, subscribe, especially on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give us a like out there. If you listen to the audio versions, take the time to go to your audio podcast threader and give us a like and a review. Be greatly appreciated, and it does help out. So smash the like button and ring the bell or whatever the hell the kids say these days. Apart from that, thank you much, and enjoy the ride.